property has never been found.
What compelled Reinhardt to this location? The case remains open, and we may never find answers. There is one particular case where credibility and evidence merge in one of the most bizarre cases I've ever investigated. One where the hunter reappeared with a story that tested the limits of believability, yet captured my imagination and, strangely, physical evidence.
My name is Carl Higdon, and this is to talk about an incident that happened in 1974. So I told my wife I was going to go south and go hunting.
What percentage of the time that he went out hunting did you go with him?
Always.
Except this time?
Yes. Carl and I are together mostly 24/7.
So on October 25th, 74.
He went out by himself completely.
And was that a rare occasion?
Yes, very rare.
So that area where this happened, had you ever been there before?
No.
Describe the best you can where this happened at. Which forest were you in?
Medicine Bow National Forest. The area that this happened in was back to the north, right at the edge of the forest. So I got inside the National Forest. I walked down, maybe 3/4 mile. I seen 5 elk, but they didn't move. That was another strange thing.
That what? Say that again?
They didn't move. They just sat there.
Carl entered the woods, lined up on a series of elk, and he even said that the elk weren't moving. Leveled his rifle at the animals, pulled the trigger. He says his gun went off. The bullet came out the end of the barrel and hit some type of invisible force field and dropped to the ground. That bullet was recovered by Carl and later analyzed, and it did hit something. What we don't know, but the unusual nature of the travel of that ammunition is so odd that I've never heard of it in any type of research before.
You're standing there, you shot the rifle, you're turning, and you see the craft. Give me as much detail as you can on that craft, Carl.
Well, it was like looking at a piece of glass, only it had borders around it. And I couldn't figure out what it was to start with.
So when you're looking at the cube, can you see through it and see forest behind it?
Yes.
Was there anything in the cube?
Not that I could see.
So it was just like a glass square on 4 sides, 7 foot by 5 foot, with nothing inside it, and you could kind of see through it.
Right.
What'd you think when you first saw it?
I didn't know. I just kind of stared at it because it was unusual. And this guy showed up and asked me if I was hungry. Told him yeah. So these package of 4 pills drifted over to me just like it was thrown at me. I took one. Next thing I know, I was in this cubicle, but it looked a lot bigger. There's 5 elk behind me. I said, "You got my elk?" He just looked at me and shrugged. Told me what his name was, Ozo. And they were down to get food. I said, "You guys always come down?" He said, "Yeah, we come down every so often. We get elk, deer from here, and go to the ocean and get fish and take it back."
This is a drawing that Carl drew in the hospital, and the being had like a hand that was a cone and no hand here, and his hair was like straw. And
So this is a very descriptive drawing. What are these little things?
This is kind of an apron, and it shows where the kind of where the land is in his planet.
Did Ozo seem to have a personality?
He seemed to, like, when he talked to me, his lips never moved. I mean, it was back and forth. But he seemed like he knew a lot.
What color was his suit?
Black.
Black. The entire suit was black.
Completely black, because our sun burns them. So they have to wear black, and they wear like a scuba diver's suit. Covers them completely.
Did Carl ever say if he only had one hand and didn't draw the second? Or
Yes, he did not have another hand here, but he had like a cone over here.
Carl ever have an opinion if this was a male or female?
He figures it was a male.
A male.
And then this is a picture of the craft. And this was the controls. This is where Ozo sat. And this is where Carl sat. And there was still 5 elk in here also.
Then we lifted off, and then I could see, looked like a ball down below. I figured it was the Earth. I didn't know.
And he was taken to someplace that could best be described as another planet. They took him behind the screen and eventually said, "We don't need you. You don't fit what we need." The implication to Carl being is that he had a vasectomy and they needed somebody that was 100% fertile.
I said, "Why? I gotta go home." He said, "Don't worry, somebody come get you." They dropped me off, and I hit the side of this hill and I rolled down it.
This is a critical point. When Carl explained that he was dropped, I have investigated hundreds of cases with unusual circumstances that show that someone was dropped into that location. This isn't something that's normally talked about in investigations. A lot of times it's just pushed off as happenstance and an accident that the person fell into the place. There's much more to this, and Carl has explained it.
It was after I got off work. I felt the need to go to him. I felt that he needed me, that I had to go help him.
So you get out there, you have the sheriff there, and everyone's looking. You're sitting on the hill, and you eventually get told that they found Carl?
The deputy sheriff got out of the pickup, crouched down with his gun, ready to shoot Carl if he had to, because we did not know what was going on.
So from visually looking at Carl then, did it even seem like it was your husband?
He kept looking out through the windshield and saying, my elk, they took my elk, they took my elk.
Who did you think they were?
I had no idea what he was even talking about.
So at the hospital, they do a full examination.
They checked him over with a fine-tooth comb. First, they wanted to know if he was on any drugs. He was not. And when I asked him, Dr. Tonko, about the spots on his lungs, he said, "What spots? There's no spots."
And in the x-ray, they found that his lungs were completely clear, which was highly suspicious and unusual because Carl had tuberculosis scars on his lungs. So something happened while he was gone that cleared that up.
At the time, did you think that maybe something happened on that ship that they made you pure and clean?
No, I think it was when I was behind the shield there, because that's when he said, "You're not what we want, we'll take you back." And I figured it was because of my vasectomy, but I'm not sure of that.
If it was because of the vasectomy, was the insinuation that if you didn't have one, you weren't coming back?
That's what I gathered.
So Carl insinuates that the entities didn't want him because his reproductive system wasn't intact. Now, if it was, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this story. So I read a name, and you can explain this to me, Dr. Leon Sprinkle. How did he come into the picture, and what did he do?
He was a psychologist, and he was with the University of Wyoming, and he studies UFO people, contactees. He could not say that he actually believed him, but he couldn't say that he did not. Carl took a lie detector test. In fact, he took, 3 or 4 of them.
What were the results of those?
He's telling the truth as he believes.
I don't know what other people think, but if they don't believe it, they don't have to. I mean, everybody's their own opinion. I know what happened to me.